Hi everyone. So today we're going to continue looking at how to co-create. We've explored the fact that we're understanding that we are involved in a seamless way with the creative force and its creation, and that we have a role in that. And we have started to turn inward. This is a spiritual awakening journey. We understand that there is an inner spirit. And we're beginning to listen to that spirit, and we're beginning to discern the difference between the spirit and, well, what's not the spirit, and we're trying to figure out what that is. And if we want to co-create, it is really, really important that we understand the difference in the two voices, and that we understand where those different thoughts, ideas, desires, and wants come from, and which ones we should turn towards, which ones we should dissolve, and how to do all of that. So that's what this video is about. Um, Earlier this week, I think it was yesterday, I put out a video on YouTube. I will include it in this post. It basically explains that source, massive, huge source here, um, is God, infinity, infinite potential, infinite love. And it comes into the physical world as a spark, a little piece of it, not separate from it. And that when it comes into this physical world, it needs a physical body, right? If you're living where you come from the realm of the infinite, where there's no time, no space, no limitations, but you come into this world where there is physical space. So there's here and there. You need the ability to navigate. So you create a body. Now you also need the ability to understand, analyze, process, remember the past, contemplate the future, and perceive other people as separate from you. Remember the divine, your spirit, the spirit within you does not come from that world, does not think that way. So in order to do this, let's say that this is an Uber. It hires an Uber to take it around, and it hires a driver to help it to perceive. So the driver is the mind, um, and the mind, well, the mind and the intellect. It's the ability to remember and to adapt based on what has happened. Okay, so herein is the basic dysfunction of humanity. But let's break it down into little pieces, right? We're specifically looking at co-creation. Co-creation is primarily your desires. So you end up with a vision board, right? I'm just gonna visually think here, right? So you have a little vision board, and on that little vision board, you want this, you want that, you put your little pictures, you want a house, you want a car, and it's all there. And we put all of our efforts. The mind identifies the things that it wants, the desires, and the mind puts the effort on making this happen. Sometimes we do it by saying, okay, I have a savings plan, I'm going to work, I'm going to save, I'm going to invest. And sometimes, sorry, whoopsie. Okay. And then sometimes we do it by saying, I'm going to visualize, I'm going to manifest, I'm going to feel the feelings, all that kind of stuff. There's a bunch of different teachings on how to do this. But the point that I'm trying to make today, which is the important point, is that the vision board is developed by the mind and consists of desires. So this video is about desires. What are them? What are they, and where do they come from? So first we have to understand, we know that the desires come from the mind, right? Sorry, I should have opened all of these. Okay, so the desires come from the mind. Sorry, it's gonna be worth it. The mind creates the desires, right? And what creates the mind? This sense of I am. Where did it come from? What makes it shaped the way that it is in order to choose a desire? Your desires and my desires are different because who you call you and who I call me are two different people. What creates this identity? So here's the simple version of it. If you've watched the Pain Body series, you've seen another visual way of thinking about it, but let's look at it this way. The world. So you are, I'm just gonna draw a little quick thing here, right? You are, let's call that a perfect shape. That's what you're supposed to be, right? This is just an image here. You just follow the gist of it. In life, you will encounter something, an event, a person, a trauma, some moment in your life where you felt alone, overwhelmed, afraid, incapable, surprised, unprepared. And that is going to dent, it's going to create a dent in your being, right? So, this, which is your initial sense of self, now becomes this because it has encountered an obstacle. It has encountered an experience, an event, a person, something, right? Um, so this becomes your, um, let's call this your inner image. What this big event, which doesn't always have to be massive, sometimes it can be teasing from your siblings, bullying at school, it can be some misunderstanding of a form of discipline that your parents had towards you. It makes an impact. You're a young child, you're developing, you don't quite understand how the world is working, and you modify how you feel based on this. So if someone surprises you and assaults you, or let's just even say ambushes you, your inner image becomes, I am vulnerable. If there was a serious moment in your youth where you perceived, because remember you're young, you don't quite understand what's happening, you perceive that your parents don't have enough, your mom doesn't have enough, your mom is crying because she doesn't know what to cook for dinner, your inner image becomes, there isn't enough, I may or may not have enough. This is your inner image based on what happened to you. Now here's the thing. Your inner image is kind of a secret because this trauma was so big, so bad, so horrible that what you became, you don't like. You're ashamed of the fact that you're vulnerable, that you're insufficient, that you're bad, whatever story. I don't want to get too much into that, but it's a child mind's interpretation of what happened in life, and you develop a sense of I, that is, I am bad, I'm not good enough, I'm vulnerable, I'm dirty, I'm tainted. And what you do to compensate for that is you, let's what to do, let's take this here. To compensate for that, you build another self-image, not self-image, you build another another version of yourself. This is your outer image, right? This is how you present yourself to the world. So if you say, wow, I was bullied by my brother, my older brother beat me up, bullied me, made fun of me, teased me, harassed me my entire childhood, and I feel like I'm a weakling, I feel like I have no self-confidence. That's the image deep inside of your heart that only shows up in really, really moments when you feel really broken. But you compensate by creating an outer image where you go out into the corporate world and you're like, I am so tough and I am so confident and I know what I want, right? So you're dealing with two images here, the one deep in your heart that nobody knows and the one that you are loudly projecting to the public. And then you're also dealing with the fact that you have a perception of the world. And because this had the biggest impact on your life, your um your world image, this is what you think the world is. So this here, this little diagram essentially describes trauma. And I'm not trying to get too much into the psychology of it. I'm just saying that all of this here is what created your sense of I am. It's what creates, develops the mind, develops the ego. And because this is ultimately just the ego here, the egoic self. I'm using that word because the word ego has become tainted. People don't quite understand what it means. So let's go with the egoic self identity, right? So what we need to realize is that this process has so deeply impacted us that everything that the mind remembers, everything that the intellect analyzes, everywhere that the driver chooses to go, every sense of self, every sense of the world that we're dealing with, everything that we want or don't want, every fear, every desire comes from here. If it originates in the mind, it comes from here. So, for me, this was really devastating when I figured it out because I was like, "Ooh, vision board, vision board. I have so many visions." But it turns out that your vision boards consists of things that you fear will happen and things that you think will protect you from from your fears. These are the things that are fueling your desires. I won't get into extreme detail in it, but we're gonna go through the other video that I send will be a sort of an exercise to identify this, because I want to remind you, you are not a victim of this pattern. You are not trapped in here forever. When you see it, this whole game is a game of consciousness. When you or awareness, when you become aware of it, it no longer controls you. So we're gonna go through this, but I cannot move forward and tell you how to make your vision board occur. Go find the power of God within you and ta-da, you'll get everything you want, because these things are not what you want. They are they are a projection of the mind based on these things that the mind carries with it. So let's just say, I'm going to oversimplify just so that I can make a quick point here. Let's say that fire burnt your house when you were a child, right? Now you have a fear of fire. That's your fear. Or you can have your desires will be, I need, okay, no, let's try something different. Let's say that as a child, you grew up watching your parents be very poor. There was a moment where there was a lot of fear concerning money. Maybe you became homeless. Maybe your extended family started to tease and mock and bully you because of that. So your patterns, these are called patterns or incompletion. We'll get into that. Samskaras, just, yeah, there's lots of words for it. These things became based on lack and the fear of lack. So now when you go to your vision board, you look and you say, I want a good job. But what you mean, or I want a job with a good salary, what you mean is I don't want to be poor. When you say I want a house, you're actually saying, I don't want to be homeless like how my mom and dad were homeless. When you say I want a big bank account with a lot of savings and a big investment portfolio, you're saying I want to make sure, I want to satiate or appease my fear of lack. Right now, don't get me wrong, I'm just trying to make a point here. I'm not saying that any of those things are in and of themselves wrong. I'm just saying that you're not aware that these desires are coming from these patterns and these incompletions, right? Okay, so what is my point? Why is it important to know this? We are going through and have essentially gone through a spiritual awakening process. That's how you're here in this group. Spiritual awakening is when you realize, you remember, you awaken to the reality that there is a spirit nature within you, which means that you realize that the mind has created patterns, has created an egoic self identity, has caused you to be, has entrapped your awareness here, and you have built a world based on memories and fears and traumas and projections. And this whole mess here is not who you are. You are this, you're not this, you are this, right? So a lot of what we've done on the channel and in the membership group has helped us with that shift. And the shift obviously isn't over, but we can say that the grip of the mind is less intense. The memory of spirit is bigger, and the stream of energy that the mind has been occupying and blocking and distorting, like this distorted energy is creating more of these things, that is not happening as much. We're allowing this, we're tapping into this, it's getting stronger, we're allowing it to feed our body once more. We're feeling vibrant, we're feeling healthier, we're noticing it in the world. Instead of noticing all these things, we're noticing, divinity in the world. Our consciousness is shifting. And at least once a day, we're doing a meditation so that we can still our mind, forget this identity that is fueled by this memory, and remember this identity. That is what the spiritual awakening process is. And now, so let's say post awakening, although awakening is never done, we want to create a new world, because the previous world was a world of fear and trauma, obsession over who hurt us and what happened, and a desire to fix it, and a sense of justice, and a despair and a despondency over what's happening in the world. So that was not working. And now we want to create something else. How do we create something else? We have to, let's use the word, hope you can see this here. Yeah, okay. Co-creation, right? Let's talk about, well, here's the easy part: creation. Creation is the job of God. God in you, the little piece of God, your spirit inside of you, God in you is your spirit, right? So, this being here, this friend on the inside, this higher level of consciousness, the Holy Spirit that dwells inside of you, that fuels and creates your body, this is the one that does the creation, right? It is the creative force. It is the energy that turns into matter. It creates your world, and it will create your world. But the mind, the whoops, wrong, whatever. The mind's job is, what do I do? Okay, mind. I hope you can see that right. Mind is choice, identity, will, right? You came in here as a separate, you spirit came into this world to live as an apparent separate being, and to experience what it feels like to live in a world and co-create a world with other people around, and how to navigate a world filled with others. So it is necessary that a person is created, and the person gets to choose. The person has preferences, tastes, favorites, dislikes. The person has desires. The person gets to say yes or no. The person has free will. That is absolutely one of the defining properties of this individual person, is it has free will and choice, um based on what it likes, based on what it perceives its role to be in the world. So co-creation is when the individual, let's not say the mind, the individual detects what it wants. It identifies what it, all the things that are possible. It identifies possibilities. And this is, that's it. It looks at, oh, can you see? Okay, there you go. It identifies possibilities, and it chooses and gives permission to the creative force inside of it to bring it out. It's, you cannot pray to God what you have not decided you wanted of this higher force. So these two things have to work together. Now, this force here, this creative force, the creative energy, the creative level of consciousness, it's perfect. It knows how to do what it needs to do. Does not need improving, does not need training. Nothing needs to be done here. The only work that needs to be done here is on the individual. Right now, thus far, the individual has been desiring, using its free will to desire these things based on these things, and it hasn't been working. So we have to be able to find more possibilities. um let's, okay, so I'm just bombarding you guys with graphics here just because I got some new markers and I like it. But I'm going to show you all the different ways. I'm going to explain this from every possible angle till you get it. The individual self sees the world through its eyes, right? This is the world that it sees through these filters, through the lens of experience. This mind, this individual, this egoic self does not have any, you know, it is designed to respond to and interpret the world. So it is nothing more than an interpretation of what it has experienced. So it is a limited consciousness. It sees in a limited way, it sees limitations, right? So when this being goes out to manifest, it only manifests different versions or slightly better versions of what it wants. It whoops, it thinks that choosing its favorite color of Skittles is a form of diversity, when in fact there's so much more than Skittles in the world. There's cake and there's rice, like there's so many things you can have, but it's just so limited in its experience. It only keeps choosing better versions of this. So you see these traumas that freaked it out when it was young, its vision board is nothing more than the best version of these traumas. So what you have to do is you have to detect a um higher perception. The friend on the inside, the consciousness, the God, the spirit of God, knows everything, wants everything, could do everything, wishes everything for you, is willing to give you everything, sees possibilities, remembers what you wanted to do when you came to this world, remembers your biggest dreams, remembers your greatest potential, and sees lots of other variations and says, well, how about this, how about this, how about that, this is, oh my goodness, have you seen this opportunity, look over there, that person, this thing, this project, this. It has so many ideas, and it wants to give it to you. In fact, it is giving it to you. And this is just an image here, because if these are human eyes, then let's use divine eyes as divine perception, just so that I can have something to point to. This divine perception here is not limitations. This divine perception is possibilities. Endless, endless possibilities. And if this mind, if the one who gives permission, who chooses, who asks God for something, wants to ask God for something, then it has to ask for a greater possibility, not merely for better versions of the things that traumatized it. It has to get possibilities beyond the realm of its experience. And in order to do that, it has to listen. It has to hear and detect something better. This is a voice. This consciousness here is an inner voice inside of you, and you have to learn to listen to it. We think that we have to pray to it and say, give me an idea, please God, please, please, Holy Spirit, give me inner guide, my guides, my wisdom, my spirits, please give me an idea, give me help, give me an idea. That's like asking the sun to send a ray of sun to the earth. If you think that this level of consciousness is not actively helping, then you're misunderstanding this level of consciousness. The limitation is not in this level of consciousness giving you ideas. The limitation is in this mind, intellect, brain thingy detecting and hearing it. And the reason it cannot hear it is because these patterns, these pain patterns, are too loud. So the next thing we're going to go on to doing is hearing this. Hear what this wants, work with this, decide, ask, choose, receive, accept, say yes, yes, I want this. But we cannot move on to this until we realize that our awareness, the radio waves in our brain, are overwhelmed by the sound of these things. So I'm going to post another video in this post, and this weekend when we meet, we're going to talk about it and do it as an exercise. The next video is going to be very short, maybe less than 10 minutes for sure, and it's just going to talk about how do we identify these root patterns, these core beliefs that are drowning out the sound of the greatest guidance in the universe. How do we identify these, and how do we process them? And this weekend, I do hope you can join me. I'm going to send the meeting times. If you can't, I will post the recording to this small group of members, but I really, really hope you can be there. We will actively do this workshop together, and we will figure out how to process and heal and release. Okay. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you again in the next video.